What's up, everybody? It's me, Crazy Frankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 3 for Key Game Picks. Before I get into my Week 3 Key Game Picks, there's a lot of thoughts about Week 2. Um, well, what can I say? What should I start with? I'm probably not going to get into everything that would happen in Week 2 and my personal thoughts about it, but probably maybe a few things that I will get into. Not going to get into much between the scuffle between the Jets and Patriots in that game. They had like a little bit of a fight that happened, and there's been some fines and I think a couple of suspensions that happened in that game. But if I come to think about it, if you think about that game, I think it was more about the Patriots more than it was the Jets. I mean, Tom Brady looked frustrated in that game last week. The Patriots won the game 13-10 over the Jets, but really, in all honesty, it was more about the Patriots. I mean, really, they're really starting to lose their touch, even for a team that's really 2-0 right now. The Jets, though, I give the Jets a lot of credit. Geno Smith really is coming into his own right now. He played a fairly decent game against the Pats. Not bad for a game up in Foxborough for him, but I think it was more about the Patriots in that game. Aaron Rodgers, he had a heck of a day. I think it was 4 or 5 touchdown passes he had. Boy, they just demolished the Washington Redskins. And if I'm going to get into any kind of slump, talking about slumps and all that, I could be right about my sophomore slump. It could be RG3. You could say that no work during the preseason kind of did affect him. I think it's more about that. It's more about his ACL. I think to me, I've always said this about sports injuries, and anybody who talks about this, all the sports analysts, I think once you tear your cruciate ligament, I really think you're not the same person anymore because that sort of thing is damaging to your legs and the whole bottom portion of your body because really, especially if you're a sports athlete, once you tear that thing, I think to me, you'll never ever be the same person ever again. But I do give Dr. Andrews a lot of credit, though. He does what he can to get the players back on their feet, and what is this guy is a living legend when it comes to sports surgery. Um, but other than that, other thoughts. Boy, boy, did the 49ers get killed in that game against Seattle, and I was definitely wrong on that. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk that 49ers D and their offense really stunk it up there in Seattle? I'm not ready to say that Seattle is the best team in the NFL, let alone the NFC conference right now, because, look at what Green Bay did to Washington. Like I said, Green Bay, you would consider it. And how about the Saints coming back? Late in the game, they were trailing 14 to 13. Give credit where credit is due for this Saints team. They came back and won on a last-second field goal, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And other key thoughts. How about E.J. Manuel up in Buffalo on a last-minute touchdown? This guy really stepped it up for the Bills. To be fair though, the Bills were given a second opportunity due to the Panthers. I think it was a pass interference penalty. That kind of gave the Bills new life. And Jay Cutler, he actually did shut me up last week. He finally stepped it up in the final minutes. They beat the Vikings 31-30. Give Jay Cutler, I think for 1 week actually did shut me up, but I will give him that. He finally showed some toughness. Pittsburgh's starting to fall apart. They lost to Cincy on Monday night. Yeah, I hate to say it, but with the Pittsburgh Steelers missing their starting center, to me, that offense really is a joke, in all honesty. And Ben Roethlisberger's being asked to do a lot. Defensive wise, they're not that good. That defense is. They're really they're really getting older. I don't know what to say about them. And of course, Chargers finally, great job of beating the Eagles. That game was hard for me to watch because, I do follow the Philadelphia Eagles too. That game for me was hard to watch, but Chargers are first in my book. I have to say that. There was a ton of ton of things last week in week number 2 that I could get into. I do know that the Chiefs, how about the Chiefs 2-0? Get this team finally in the right direction. I mean, they did beat the Cowboys. That was one of my upset picks, that the Chiefs were going to beat the Cowboys, and I nailed it. So I'm 2-0 on my upsets. Not bad, huh? Anyways, enough about week 2. Let's get into week 3. This is a tough week. If I'm looking at the schedule and the way the last 2 weeks of the season have been, I would have to say a lot of these games are toss-ups. And what I mean by toss-ups and all that, you will know more on my blog once I post up all of my week 3 picks. I mean, I'm putting a lot of games up for toss-ups. But anyways, going into key games, kind of hard to find a couple of key games, but this is what I have. My first key game is the Chiefs at the Eagles. A big homecoming for Andy Reid, former Eagles head coach. And what could be more bittersweet for them to beat the Eagles? This is a tough game here. I'm not going to say the way. I mean, the Eagles could have played it a little bit better, and all rightfully so. I mean, I personally think they probably should have beaten the Chargers. I hate to say that as a Charger fan, but I really think the Eagles played a little bit more better than the Chargers did in the offensively. I mean, Chargers defense really did give up pretty good amount of good plays last week, but even though their defense finally stepped it up, beating the Eagles last week, and it does bring a lot of questions to clock management and substitutions for the Eagles offense. And no, this game is going to be very, very tight, and probably a very, very close game. I mean, I'm not ready to fully buy into Chip Kelly's offensive yet, but they did prove that they're pretty good. Give them a lot of credit. But the way the Chiefs are playing right now, they're playing on a mission right now, and I really think right now they're trying to make a statement here that this franchise this season is a team I would reckon with. I wouldn't want to play them. And Andy Reid is coaching this team up very well. Offensively, they did very good against the Cowboys. Defensive-wise, they could have been a little bit better, but give the Chiefs a lot of credit. They stepped it up. They beat the Cowboys last week. This is a tough one here. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think, to me, this means a lot to Andy Reid. He really wants to go into Philadelphia, and what better place than to beat his former team. And Kansas City, I would have to say maybe some people are going to say they're a slight favorite. The Eagles might be a slight favorite. It could go either way, in all honesty. But I'm going to say the Chiefs barely squeak out a victory over the Eagles. I think this game is very emotional for Andy Reid, and he wants to beat the Eagles, and I think and I think the way their offense is playing right now, I think, to me, they're going to barely squeak out a victory in Philadelphia. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Eagles. Key game number 2. The Texans and the Ravens. This is a big game for the Ravens right now because they're in danger of going 1-2. I mean, they barely beat the Browns last week in a 14-6 snoozer. It's tough to say with this Ravens team. I know they're missing a lot of leadership and all, but I really think that Joe Flacco needs to inch it up a notch to try to get this team motivated somehow. And knowing John Harbaugh and the coach, I really think he's got to also bring a little bit more fire into the campfire. And Houston right now, after coming from behind twice in their last 2 games, I mean, they had to win. They had to go to overtime to beat the Titans last week. I'll give the Titans a little bit of credit on there. Their team, I probably say they're on the rise. But the way Houston played right now, if Baltimore gets in a groove and all that, I mean, the Texans are going to have to try to come back again. I mean, this is a tough one right here. People would say probably Houston's going to maybe blow out the Ravens. I don't think so. This is a much more important game for the Ravens more than it is for the Texans. Texans are 2-0. Ravens are 1-1. And I think, to me, Houston, I think, will make it 3-0. I don't think they're gonna allow any sort of falling behind in the score. I mean, the way their defense played last week, and especially in week number 1 against the Chargers, this is where they need to step it up. I think they're going to squeak out. This is another squeaker right here. I think Houston barely wins this game. It'll be a close game here. I like Houston over the Ravens. I think the Ravens, as far as they need leadership, they need some sort of motivation on that team right now because really their last 2 games weren't impressive at all. And their win over the Browns last week was really, I'm not too impressed. I'm not really too impressed about it. I like Houston in this game. I think Houston's a little bit more better than the Ravens in this one. I'm going to say the Texans over the Ravens here. Key game number 3, Packers and the Bengals. Both teams 1-1. And one of these teams is going to go 1-2, and the other is going to go 2-1. This is another tough one here. Like I was saying before, when I started this video, a lot of these games are going to be toss-ups here. And I think this is another one here that's a toss-up. The Bengals played fairly well against the Steelers. Green Bay destroying Washington. But I think for this game, I'm going to say this will be close. This will be a very close game. Andy Dalton and the Bengals, they're getting their groove on. Offensively, they finally got it together. And a couple of players that are new this year to them. I mean, look at Jerani Harrell. I mean, he had a great game. Andy Dalton's starting to find some receivers. I mean, really, this is a team right now that is trying to make a statement here. And what better statement here if they can beat the Packers here? Packers, I mean, they made a statement of their own, beating the crap out of the Redskins. And like I'm saying, this is a tough one here. I think this is another game that this could go down to the wire, in my honest opinion here. But I really think that Green Bay, I think, edges out a squeaker over the Bengals here. I like Green Bay in this one. I think they're a little bit better than the Bengals, but you never know. This game could go either way. Like I said, this is another game I consider a toss-up here. Green Bay, I think, will win this one here. It'll be close. Packers over the Bengals. And key game number 4, the 49ers and the Colts. This game is in Frisco. This does kind of favor the advantage to the 49ers. I mean, I know the 49ers got embarrassed last week by Seattle. And the Colts right now was an unexpected loss. I mean, I did have them beating the Dolphins, but it turns out Dolphins ended up beating the Colts. This is another one I consider a toss-up here. I don't think, even though the 49ers are a slight favorite in this one, no. I think this could go either way. Andrew Luck and the Colts, they're going to somehow get it together to try. I don't think we're going to see a much poor performance on the road for this Colts team. But the 49ers, I know they're going to bounce back here. This is if you're a 49ers fan, I wouldn't worry too much about it. So you probably know where I'm going to go with this one here. I like the 49ers over the Colts here. Even though one of these two teams, I know one of these two teams desperately needs a win here. Otherwise, they're going to fall to 1-2. But I really like the 49ers here. They are not going to have another terrible game like that. They're Colts right now. They do kind of have a question. I do question their defense a little bit. They do have some injuries right now. But I know that the Colts will be in this game. I don't expect this game to be a blowout. I think the 49ers will barely win this game. But I think, to me, that the Colts, they do have some issues on both sides of the ball and some injuries. I know the 49ers do have the same thing, but I think the 49ers are a little bit better here, and I like them at home. I like them at home in this game. I'm going to take... I know that Colin Kaepernick is not going to have another bad game here. He and the offense are going to get it together. I know they're going to get it going here. Defense-wise, they know they're going to play better. I like the 49ers in this one. They'll beat the Colts here. Sorry if I've been a little bit stuttering for a moment here. I'm kind of not feeling well at the moment as of this video right now. I'm kind of not feeling well. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a cold or anything. And so if my voice seems a little bit lower than usual, I'm trying not to yell or scream as I talk. And probably more important, I'm trying not to stutter here. But anyways, enough about that shit. And about me and all that other all my other bullshit right now. Anyways, all of my week 3 picks will be posted up at crazyfrankie56.blogspot.com. I know this video was pretty long because there was a lot of thoughts from me too. I wanted to get into the video, but of course my whole video is on my key game picks. The rest of my week 3 picks are going to be posted up on my blog, so be sure to check that out. And anyways, I will see you all next week for my week 4 key game picks. Until then, have a wonderful football Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.